The RPG genre is vast, and the last time I made an RPG list, I spent countless hours finding you over 70 upcoming games. This time, I'm splitting them by subgenre for your convenience. So welcome to the best upcoming third-person action RPGs set to release in 2024. Do you think these games could live up to their amazing expectations? Let's find out, and welcome to what could be your next obsession in 2024. Entering the massive open world, Towers of Aghasba. This is an open world experience where you can build vast settlements and grow sprawling ecosystems on their own fantasy island. This one is about a balance between constructing bustling villages for their growing tribe and nurturing exotic ecosystems of otherworldly plant life. You express your creativity by developing your island however you like as you explore the whimsical land of Aghasba. From the looks of things, this game is promising jaw-dropping vistas, bizarre creatures, and a rich history to the sacred island of Aghasba. You'll be able to build your village, rejuvenate the land, and you can visit friends' unique islands or invite people over to see yours. So generally, this game is sort of mixing RPG, a little bit of action-adventure, and maybe a little touch of Animal Crossing. So it generally does seem very interesting. At the time of recording, it is just coming soon, but as you can see from the trailer, there's a lot to see here, and I think personally that this is one to watch. In maybe more of a classic fantasy setting, Stormrite. Embark on an epic journey in this open-world RPG set in the dark fantasy medieval kingdom of Redreach. Unleash the power of ancient magic as a young squire, or become a fearsome warrior forging your destiny amidst a world brimming with chaos and conflict. Now, in this open-world action RPG, you'll be unraveling the twisted history of a vast kingdom, preparing for Requiem's return, because there's apparently an endless cycle of suffering inflicted by this all-powerful being. But then it suddenly disappeared, and maybe it's coming back. So you'll need to harness the power of focus crystals, allowing you to cast magic and other special powers. And you'll be choosing your path in branching skill trees as you travel across the land and discovering secrets. Now, importantly, this is a fully single-player third-person experience, so no multiplayer here. But combat does seem to be a bit of a focus with a hybrid melee range loadout, using agility, daggers, throwing knives. You can even play a crossbow style, so there's a lot of different ways to fight your way through this game. And there is a companion system, so you'll be bringing your allies along on your travels. Generally speaking, this does seem like more of the traditional fantasy action RPG experience, but there are still some interesting little twists here. Now, I know visually it might not look particularly next-gen, but gameplay-wise there's a lot of good ideas. However, it is still just coming soon with no particular release window, so we'll see how Stormrite develops into 2024. For a much brighter and colorful experience, Europa. On the moon Europa, a lush, terraformed paradise in Jupiter's shadow, an android named Z sets out in search of answers. Run, glide, and fly across the landscape, solving mysteries in the ruins of a fallen utopia, and discover the story of the last human alive. I mean, contrasting with all the dark, grim fantasy worlds out there, this one is a breath of fresh air. You know, this world has lakes, meadows, and mountains to explore. There is a fallen civilization, but it doesn't seem all that depressing. The unique thing here is free-flowing movement that allows you to glide serenely from boost to boost. You build power and momentum over time, and that allows you to traverse the world in this very relaxing way, actually. There will be secrets and puzzles and dangers to navigate, and maybe more of an intimate story to work your way through, you know, about humanity's relationship with nature. So this game is set for 2024. However, at the time of recording, there is a free demo on Steam, So you can just go try Europa out yourself right now, so you can get the gist of what it is, and then see if it's a game that you want to get into when it fully releases in 2024. Going a bit more serious, Rise of the Ronin. Embark on an epic journey across a war-torn 19th century Japan in this combat-focused open-world action RPG from the creators of Nioh and Ninja Gaiden. You find yourself in Japan, 1863, after 3 centuries of the Tokugawa shogunate's oppressive rule, and the country descends into turmoil and war. Amidst the chaos, disease, and political unrest, a nameless warrior forges their own path. That would be you. The story you can shape? Dynamic. The world you can explore? Supposedly authentic. The combat you'll be engaging in is supposed to be deep but accessible. I think the main point here is this is a samurai game. It's a samurai open world action RPG, and if that is the theme you're into, then you're probably gonna like this one. But honestly speaking, at the time of recording, we haven't seen all too much. The screenshots look great, the initial trailer seems very nice, but we haven't seen a lot of details still. So I'm very curious about this. But yeah, I think the main point is, you like samurais, keep an eye on Rise of the Ronin. Taking a step into the past, the Gothic 1 Remake. That's right, Gothic 1, that classic RPG that so many people love, is getting a remake. The kingdom of Mitarna has been invaded by a horde of orcs, and King Roba II, in need of a large quantity of magical ore in order to forge powerful weapons, operates the Corinus Mines with all available prisoners. That's a lot of lore, but basically, this is Gothic 1. And it's not a remaster, it's a remake, so a new game. You'll be returning to the colony and rediscovering its secrets and challenges. You play the nameless hero, of course, and you control the fate of a lifetime convicted prisoner who must survive in a world full of wild animals, creatures, and other dangerous convicts. So this remake is supposed to be, it is promising to be, a faithful full remake of the original Gothic, but with modernized combat and controls. Now this can be an incredible challenge, especially because of so many people who love the Gothic series and particularly Gothic 1. So the hype is real and the expectations are high, and there is always a big chance that this is a big fail. However, I mean, they just have to do it right. And maybe we can get a revival of a series that, although is very popular, maybe is still underrated in the whole scheme of things. There's no particular release window for the Gothic 1 remake, but if you're an open world action RPG fan, then definitely keep an eye on this one. Hey, now that you're a bit into the list, I'm sure you're enjoying it, so it'd be greatly appreciated if you can like the video. Alright, next game. Caribbean Legend. While we're on the topic of old games remade, this is an open-world RPG set in the golden age of Caribbean piracy. You embark on a 200-hour-long adventure, plunder cities and ships, explore the unknown, discover treasures, forge friendships, earn bounties on your head, and charm the ladies on your path to ultimate freedom. So this is kind of a remake of another pirate game, an older pirate game called To Each His Own. However, things have been developing so far to the point where Caribbean Legend is kind of becoming its own kind of game, especially if you never played the original. I mean, as I've said, there's a lot to this. Owning a warship, commanding pirates, tailoring your character's build, equipment, crafting, military operations and sieges, there's so much. This is supposed to be the ultimate pirate game, outside of maybe somewhat slightly dated visuals. But we don't have a lot of true pirate games nowadays, so this could be your best bet as an aspiring pirate. And good news, a release date is actually set for the 15th of February 2024, so if you want to be a pirate, then you can keep your one unpatched eye on Caribbean Legend. And then for one we really don't know all that much about, Phantom Blade Zero. Here we have an action RPG which is supposed to feature a deep and dark art style, fast-paced combat, and a fictitious world blending Chinese martial arts and steampunk. You be the Dark Raider, exiled by the Order, embarking on a path of vengeance as you uncover the darkest secrets of Wulin. We have a very impressive trailer which shows off a lot of fast-paced, high-octane combat, which seems very impressive. However, this is a very curated view of the game, and it's unclear how much of this will be actual gameplay. Honestly, there isn't too much to say. You can see the trailer, you can see if it's a game that you want to keep in your wish list, but until they reveal more, then Phantom Blade Zero is just going to be one of those games on the horizon. It does seem promising, so maybe we'll get something very interesting at some point. And then we have Second Stone, the legend of the hidden world. Going back to a colorful and vibrant world, you'll be uncovering a wealth of ominous secrets in a mind-bending adventure RPG. You unleash the power of mana stones to devastate your opponents in combat. You journey through a vast world filled with adventure and excitement, and another promise is you get to experience a thrilling story to uncover the mystery of a hidden realm. Having said that, we don't know much more about this game besides, again, a very impressive trailer and some nice screenshots. So this is one where I really shouldn't be saying too much because there isn't much to say. You can have a look at it, you can keep an eye on it, but let's move on to other games we can talk more about. Next we've got AIKODE, might be pronounced AIKODE. Insomnium, a world doomed to an endless cycle of death. Aiko, a Kiao created by The Order, another The Order. Okay, just as a side note here, games need to stop calling factions The Order. There's too many orders. Anyway, this character comes across as a puppet that will lead her to the worst of futures, her own past. Okay. This is a JRPG plot if I have ever heard one. This character, created by a mysterious organization, faces the future, which is her past? Alright. Anyway, this game has colossal bosses, intricate combat mechanics, a vast and immersive world, multiple methods of exploration, a bunch of customization, but also a lot of side quests and activities where you can go fishing, visit arcades and karaoke bars. You know, you can spend your free time just having fun in this world. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting things here, and it's kind of hard to know what to expect in this game. I mean, the trailer shows off some gameplay, the screenshots look lovely, and the description is as insane as a JRPG should sound, so just could be an interesting one. At the time of recording, the release is just coming soon, so no particular release window, and at this point I'm sure you know whether you're interested in this one or not. Alright, we can't have a list like this without having a game about dragons, Dragonhold particularly. Embark on an adrenaline-fueled quest for dominance in the skies. Here is a multiplayer dragon and melee fighting game. So this is promising the thrill of a lifetime, because you'll be able to soar through the skies, challenging other dragon riders from all corners of the globe. I mean, this is a dragon game, so you'll be unleashing the power of dragons as a dragon rider, living in an immersive world where you're caught in the midst of a holy war. You get to forge alliances and unleash chaos in PvP and co-op missions, along with, of course, collecting loot and upgrading your gear and enhancing your dragons as you explore, conquer, and prosper in the world of Dragonhold. So this is part action RPG, part open world exploration, but also competitive multiplayer. But if you're not into the competitive multiplayer, there does seem to be a lot of solo and cooperative content as well. But like the samurai games, I think in this particular case, you just gotta be really into dragons, because that's kind of the whole point of the game. Dragons and being a dragon rider. So if you're into dragons and you want to be a dragon rider, then have a look at Dragonhold, where you can hold on to your dragons. And then for another action RPG that we really don't know much about, it's called Daba, Land of Waterscar. which is a strange enough title. Now, this game, as far as I can tell, doesn't even have a website as of recording this video, so all we've got is this phenomenal looking trailer, which is unclear, probably isn't actual gameplay, because I don't see any user interface on this thing, I don't see any particular controls. It's just a very flashy, fancy, exciting trailer, which could be gameplay, could be actually what will be delivered, but it is unclear, and I'm not going to just accept this trailer as real gameplay. It's probably cinematic. If it's not, it's at least very heavily curated. It's supposed to be kind of like Neo, kind of like Dark Souls, set in a world teetering on the brink of collapse, as many of these worlds are, and overall could be cool if they just deliver what is being promised and shown off in the trailer. Anyway, that's Daba, Land of Waterscar. In a similar vein, Lost Soul Aside. This is another game coming to PlayStation, which is an action RPG in a fantastical world with massive giant bosses and fast-paced, exciting, flashy combat. I know a lot of people are excited about this one, but we really don't know all too much. It's another trailer with no particular UI or anything like that. So again, just deliver what's being shown off and promised, and we're all gonna be fine. Otherwise, honestly, we don't really know what we're gonna get when Lost Soul Aside launches. Could be good, could be not. Let's move on. So next we've got GreedFall 2. The sequel to GreedFall. Dive back into the unique world of GreedFall again, in what's promising to be an even deeper RPG experience. Uprooted from the island of your birth, find your freedom, explore the old continent, and forge your destiny through alliances, scheming, and battles. Now, the original game was pretty well received. I mean, most people kind of liked it, but some people felt it was kind of just fine, you know? But apparently it was liked enough to warrant a sequel, and it is now promising to be more RPG than before, which I think for this list you'd be happy about. We do have a lovely cinematic trailer and very glowy screenshots, and this game is supposed to be set a few years before the events of the first game, so it's actually a prequel. You'll be able to create your own character, find allies to join your team, help them with quests and uncover secrets, and you can equip yourself and your allies however you like. The touches of diplomacy, manipulation, and infiltration, I think, are nice additions to the overall combat, and allows you to achieve your goals in more of your style. Generally looks good, it's just coming soon right now, and if it's just better than the first game, then I think GreedFall 2 will be a success, because the first game was already relatively successful, so just be a step up. Next up, we have Where Winds Meet. An interactive open-world RPG, which is action-packed, full of adventure and martial arts. So there is actually a lot of competition in the martial arts swordsman kind of action RPGs here. In this game, you are a swordsman, and you must make tough choices as you face your destiny. Because, as like many of these games, there is division, unrest, and chaos. But this time, it's set in the Northern Song Dynasty. Now, unlike some of the other games, we have actually seen quite a lot of this, and it was playable at Gamescom, so there's people who have actually seen gameplay. And there's actually a lot of footage out there, so you can have a closer look at Where Winds Meet to see what it's actually promising and showing off right now, and it does seem like there's a lot of promise here. So yeah, if you're into being a swordsman, here's another game for you to keep an eye on, and this one seems a bit more developed than some of the others on the list. So have a look at Where Winds Meet. For more of a 3D anime-styled action RPG, Granblue Fantasy Relink. A grand adventure in the skies await. Form a party of 4 from a diverse roster of skyfarers, and you slash, shoot, or hex your way to victory against treacherous foes. You take on quests solo or with the help of others in up to 4-player co-op as well. This game takes place in the Sky Realm, where there's a myriad of islands floating around in a great blue expanse, but it's the sky, not the sea, and you are the captain of a skyfaring crew. Combat is real-time with a party of 4, and if you don't like the fast-paced combat, there are assist modes, which provide accessibility options, which is really, really nice. Because a lot of these games, they have this fast-paced, flashy action combat, but, not everyone can play that, so you can toggle on assist modes here, if you want. If you like the flashy, fast-paced, exciting combat, stick to that. There is supposed to be a lot of lore and history in this Sky Realm for you to discover. And of course, if you're into the anime style, then this one's gonna be for you. Nicely, there is a release date set for this. It's the 1st of February in 2024, so we don't have to wait too long for Granblue Fantasy Relink. Sticking to the anime style, Wuthering Waves. This is a story-rich open-world RPG with a high degree of freedom. You find yourself in an age of struggle, and civilization is once again on the brink of collapse. I guess that's just a theme that works in most of these stories. Civilization is about to end, or civilization has ended, and now it's up to you. But I don't want to take away from these games for having similar settings and stories, because the main point is, are these actually good games? Of course, in a list like this, I only have so long to talk about each game, and just mentioning the premise can make games sound very similar, but actually they can be very different. Now, this game does show off some fast-paced action and a unique world, and the game has been going through closed betas. So development is coming along, but honestly, publicly, there isn't too much to see or show at this point. You can pre-register your interest if you so desire. It's another upcoming 3D anime-styled action RPG, which has some interesting stuff being shown off in the trailer, but maybe for now, just one to watch. Then, for a game that has been renamed, if you were keeping an eye on the action RPG Arise of Awakener, that's been renamed. It's now called the Awakener Risen. You control an adventurer born in the 3rd era of the world of Silverlond, and you face various enemies, including bandits, beasts, demons, as you are trying to become the Awakener. There's classes to choose from, like warrior, sword dancer, soldier, and lancer, and overall, it looks like a really nice-looking fantasy action RPG. Now, I think this was sort of scheduled for 2023, but we are approaching the end of the year at this point, and there's no full set release date yet. It could release towards the end of 2023 still, but I would say most of our gaming of this game will happen in 2024, because we're already in Q4 of 2023, and I don't know what it is with these sometimes very last-minute release dates, announcements, or maybe last-minute delays. Like, it's so hard to make these lists, because quite often games are just delayed a few months into the next year. So for now, I'll count the Awakener Risen as a 2024 game. If you're looking forward to it, then you might get it a little bit earlier. For one that looks really interesting, it's Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Join humanity's last stand as gods and guns collide in this action RPG open world adventure. The door to the afterlife has been opened, allowing the old gods' army of the undead to escape, and now you face extinction. So you grab your guns, embrace vengeance, gunpowder, and magic, and you embark on an epic journey to lead mankind's final siege against the tide of the dead. You forge bonds with your companions and the army, defeat powerful beings, and you make your mark on a vast open world battlefield. This looks really interesting. The trailer and the screenshots, the setting is unique. Gods and guns. That's just such a good tagline. Having said that, the game was supposed to release early 2023, but it is now definitely set for 2024, so it's been delayed. Development is taking a little longer than expected. So hopefully it all does still come together really nicely for Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. And then for an anime action RPG that looks like Spider-Man, It's hard to describe this one. It's called Project Mugen. Set in a somewhat futuristic city, you can run around, climb buildings, drive cars, and fight your way through this world in flashy, fast-paced style. As with many of these games, there's no particular release window. There's a lot of details that are still sort of unclear. But a word of warning on this one, it is published by NetEase, which has a bit of a reputation, and I think this is supposed to be free to play, which generally means microtransactions. So just keep that in mind. Having said that, I think a lot of people are actually excited about the gameplay of this. I know a lot of people sort of made fun of it for kind of copying Spider-Man's gameplay, but I mean, maybe that could turn out to be something kind of interesting. I don't want companies copywriting gameplay mechanics. Some gameplay mechanics have already been copyrighted, and that has just turned out not good in general, so better to let games copy gameplay mechanics. Anyway, this anime RPG called Project Mugen could be very interesting, could be very... So we'll just see how it turns out. For another game with Project in the title, Project the Perceiver. In a quagmire of endless war, conviction is your only way out. The world is in turmoil, you get to explore tons of secrets and hidden passages, and you engage in sword-wielding duels with other characters, which are supposed to reveal who they are. I mean, it does mention a kaleidoscope of ideals. More competition in the swordsman action RPG, this one being a bit more bombastic, I think, in some regards. I mean, just looking at the footage. Less historical, I suppose we could say. I mean, there's crazy powers, crazy realms. I mean, it seems very out there, which can make things incredibly interesting, as long as the game is actually what's being shown off. There's a lot going on in the trailer. It does its job. It's making me feel hyped. But how real is all of this footage? We always have to wait and see for that. But that's what we've got on Project the Perceiver. For a sequel that people have been waiting for a long time for, Dragon's Dogma 2. This is a single-player, narrative-driven action RPG that challenges the players to choose their own experience, from the appearance of the Arisen, their vocation, their party, and how to approach different situations and more, in a truly immersive fantasy world. You set forth on your grand adventure, and as you journey, you'll be joined by pawns, mysterious otherworldly beings, and the game is saying that it's supposed to make you feel as if you are accompanied by other players while you go on your adventure. Now, an important note here, it says all of these elements are elevated through physics simulations and artificial intelligence. So I know the topic of AI is a contentious one in games. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but this is, I think, the first game that's sort of officially promising AI content in the game. And it could be good, it could be weird, it could be bad, but I think it'll be interesting either way. And I just kind of want to see how Dragon's Dogma 2 will implement the AI and how that will play out through the rest of the gaming world. If it works out in Dragon's Dogma 2, then we could see more of that in other games. But if it doesn't work out, maybe developers will hold back on that for a little while. But we'll see. Now, I think a game that so many people have been hyped for years, it's Black Myth Wukong. An action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology and based on the Monkey King. You set out as the Destined One to venture into the challenges and marvels of this fantasy world. You uncover obscured truth beneath the veil of a glorious legend from the past. There's a land of vast wonders to explore, giant, monstrous, fantastical enemies, old and new, and you master a variety of spells and abilities and transformations, and of course combat styles. But behind all this action, there is supposed to be a heartfelt tale. of personalities and complicated pasts and stories. This is a game that was revealed a few years ago now, I think, and it's always looked amazing, and it's always been very hyped for because people are just think it's a great idea and the gameplay looks amazing. It's currently set for a 2024 release window, and they've been showing off more of the gameplay over the past year, so it seems like things are on track for a release over the next year, and I think, hopefully, if it just lives up to what people are expecting, Black Myth Wukong could be a huge hit. For another game that we've been waiting years for, Crimson Desert. A war-torn world with gritty realism and aesthetic beauty, people struggling against monsters and enemies, mercenaries to be hired, and mythical beasts and maniacal rulers threatening everything. This is a game that was revealed again a few years ago, and I have talked about it before, but they're finally showing off more and more gameplay, and it seems like it's getting closer to being an actual real game. Another one that people are mega hyped for, and it does seem like it's more than just action and turmoil. There's lovely horse riding, there's fishing, and generally the world looks very beautiful to explore and live in general. I mean, if all the stuff in the trailer is real, then this looks very, very fun. But that's the key point. How real is it? I'm always gonna say a word of caution here because, you know, I'm not here to just hype you up about the biggest upcoming games. I want you to, like, you know, be a little bit cautious. I'm not telling you to pre-order any of these games. We have to see what they actually are on release. The trailers look great. And quite often, games do live up to their trailers. But I always get a little bit cautious when trailers look too exciting and too good, because then I hold back, I restrain my excitement, so that when the game releases, if it's not quite what the hype was promising, I'm fine with it. But also, if it is what the hype was promising, I'm now pleasantly surprised. It's like, wow, you actually did what you were promising to do. Crimson Desert, what we've seen looks amazing. Please just be that. Just be what you're showing, and everyone will be happy. That'll be great. Please and thank you. Moving on, a game that was announced a while ago, but we've actually seen nothing of. It's called Dragon Age Dreadwolf. It is the next Dragon Age game and supposed to be a new milestone. And for a long time, it was just called the next Dragon Age. We knew they were working on it, but they didn't reveal anything. And actually, they still haven't really revealed anything. There's some lovely concept art, but not even screenshots of this game have been shown off. The cinematic trailer, well, it's not a trailer, it's a teaser, and it looks wonderful, sure. But, you know, I think if you're a fan of the Dragon Age series, you're gonna wanna get into this one, because it's Dragon Age, and it's the next game from BioWare, so hopefully they can just keep improving on what they've been doing. They have had their ups and downs over the years, but a new Dragon Age game could be the next big thing. That's always a possibility. But right now, when I'm saying this, we know pretty much nothing besides its name. Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Alright, this part of the list does have some very unknown and future games, and the next one is the next Mass Effect game. We can call it Mass Effect 5, but it doesn't have a title. It could just be a spin-off or something. There is the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe in the works, and BioWare is working on this one as well. And once again, it's just a cinematic trailer of debris in space and planets, and a person looking at a sun flare. And that's pretty much it. But Mass Effect will continue. There is one in the works. There's nothing really to say about it, but I'm going to mention it here because there's a small chance that we see more of it in 2024, and that's what I want to tell you. There's a new Mass Effect game in the works. In a similar vein, Microsoft's bringing us the next Fable game. Some have been calling it Fable 4, but it's probably a reboot of the series. Now, if you don't know, Fable was sort of an action RPG, which was notorious back in the day because of over-promising more than anything else. I think overall, it's a generally good game and a good series, but it sort of got a lot of flack because in development in the past, there were a lot of promises being made and they weren't there on release, and the hype was just just way too high for what the game was. Now, this time around, we still haven't seen any real proper gameplay. There's a couple nice trailers, but they are just in-game footage. They're calling it gameplay. It's not gameplay. It is in-engine footage. I mean, it looks nice. It looks great. The vibe, I think most importantly, does sort of have that slight parody on a fantasy world kind of approach, which I think is always very fun and very funny in many cases, which I do personally like, you know, where fantasy games don't always take themselves too seriously and that they have that a little bit of tongue-in-cheek kind of humor. So we can judge the vibe they're going for, and that seems nice, but in terms of actual gameplay, I'm gonna say we've seen nothing. Even though they're calling this a gameplay trailer, it's not a gameplay trailer. It's an in-engine trailer, which is fine, just don't call it gameplay. Now, we can hope to see more gameplay through 2024 for Fable. And then we have the next big part in the remake people spent decades asking for, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The story of Cloud and Sephiroth continues in this vibrant and vast world, which is part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. Basically, they're splitting up the story to standalone entries, which, let's face it, everyone was kind of expecting them to do. You know, for years, people were saying, just remake Final Fantasy VII, it's gonna be a cash cow, you can make so much money, just remake Final Fantasy VII. So eventually, they were like, sure, we'll remake Final Fantasy VII, and as you said, we're gonna make it a cash cow. So they've massively expanded the game into these massive standalone parts, and I think everyone is kind of enjoying it. There's a lot of extra content, and I think an important note here is that they have said they're not necessarily sticking to the original story from the original game, so a number of things could change or be different this time around. So, not to talk about that big spoiler, but we don't know if that big spoiler is going to happen here. Now, don't go spoiling it for anyone down in the comments, okay? There's a lot of people who didn't play the original. But if you did play the original, then this is going to be a different experience. So, if you like the first part, then you're gonna love this part, I assume. And although you could jump into this part first, it might be a bit weird. I guess you could play this as a standalone game, but let's face it, it's a continuation of the last part, which, by the way, the final version of the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is called Intergrade, which is a visually enhanced version of the game. So, I mean, if you have a lot of time on your hands, I guess you can go back and play Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade before this releases, which is supposed to release on the 29th of February 2024, so really not that long from now. And yeah, it's Cloud, it's Sephiroth, there's Tifa, there's Aerith, Barret and Red 13, and of course the other characters you'll be meeting. So yeah, it's Final Fantasy VII. If you're into Final Fantasy VII, you'll be into this. Finally, I have to mention this one because they actually announced it a couple years ago. The Witcher 4, 5, and 6. If you haven't heard, a new saga of The Witcher games is being developed, and not just the next game, they have actually said that they are doing another trilogy. So Witcher 4, 5, 6 is in the works. And Cyberpunk 2077 just got the massive expansion of Phantom Liberty. So right now, the team is being switched over and focus is being put on the Witcher games. So considering this new Witcher saga was announced in 2022, it's been a couple years, and it's likely that we will get more news in 2024. Maybe a release, but I'm not gonna just bank on that. But I think it is important that if you are looking forward to new action RPGs, well, The Witcher is kind of a key one. So keep an eye on the news, keep your ear to the ground, see what gets announced and what gets revealed, because now that they have actually turned Cyberpunk around after the rough launch, let's hope CD Projekt Red has learned their lesson and they'll get The Witcher launching with a few less bumps. There you have it. Press the like button and get games using the GOG referral link below to support videos like this one. Thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members who really support this channel and keep videos like this being made. Join if you want your name on future videos. If you want to stay in the know for another genre, go to the next list video linked on the screen, as I'm sure action RPG fans like yourself would not want to miss all the classic adventures and first-person RPGs in the other lists. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.